Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome to our first video using our Card Maker's Prayer Map. Now, if you've not seen the Card Maker's Prayer Map, this is my book that I did that allows you to make a card for someone, also pray for them, and document the process as you go. This book has 52 weeks in it, and there's some pretty cool little pieces I'm going to show you today. Now, going forward, we won't do all of this in the beginning, but because this is our first one, I want to make sure I explain it to you. Now, many of you pre-ordered the book, and those have already been mailed out, but we do have some in store now, so if you'd like to pick one up, you don't have to wait to do that. Let's check out the front. So when you open this up, mine is my proof copy, and that's the one I'm using because I think that's kind of cool. But this was the very first one, the original one done. Yours won't say proof in it, by the way. But this is your prayer map front cover where you put who this belongs to and the date that you started it. And then there's some pretty imagery and some scripture for you there. And then when you open it up, this section explains how to use the book. Now, I'm going to explain it to you today, too, and even walk you through the process of my first week of doing it. But if you have questions or if you're confused or you want to kind of read through and see what every spot is for, this is a great place for that. Miss Sylvia did such a good job on this. Sylvia helped me 100% on this book, and I'm so grateful for her for helping me do this. So there's that section. Then this is my week one. Now, I will tell you, going forward, or the whole time I'm going to do this, I won't be putting my recipient's name or address in here for you guys. It's just too much for me to have to, block it out for camera. And I did write the name, but then I just covered it up. I thought I'm going to just do it that way, just for privacy purposes for everybody involved, because I will be praying for people too, and we will talk about some of that as we go. And I don't really want to, say who that's for. Y'all understand that's a private situation. But I love this. Here's what happened. So I wrote today's date because I sat down to fill this in today, okay? And then over here, I told myself when I wanted to mail this, but this one I'm actually going to hand deliver. So I wrote the date for that. This prayer is just a sample prayer for you guys. It's the same prayer on every page, and the reason for that is I really honestly don't want you to fall into just praying this prayer over and over. I'd love to see this be kind of the jumping off point for you to kind of help you build that, communication relationship with Jesus. And I want you to be able to pray more specifically than even this, but this prayer is going to help you get started. And what we're doing here basically is we're asking God to lead us to a person that he wishes for us to reach out to and give us wisdom to know what to say, which I love, and also guide us in making the card. So it was very interesting. As I started to pray for the person, I had so many people in mind that just kept popping up. But when I sat down to really focus on the card, one particular incident from the week just popped up and popped up and popped up. And I thought, you know what? That's who I need to speak to, just as a little thank you for something special they did. So I'll show you how this went for me. The specific need. Now, what I did with the specific need is I chose a specific need I wanted to pray for this person, okay? So I know this person. I know them pretty well. Like we talk a lot. They're a very, very, very close friend of mine. So I knew them and I knew some of the things they were going through or dealing with. And so I wanted to pray specifically for that. Here, this spiritual growth section, I took it for my spiritual growth this week, what I saw as I prayed for this person over the week. But it might also be you could make a note of where you've seen that person grow or something they've done that's impressed you. But I filled it in based on how God was talking to me spiritually this week through the relationship I have with the person. Then, what I'm grateful for. I went ahead and put down what I was grateful for the relationship that I have with this person. Here's the thing. You may not always have like a really close or best friend that you're making a card for. God may ask you to make a card for your mail carrier, Well, there's still gratitude. There's still spiritual growth you can receive from that. God talking to you and giving you an idea. There's still needs that person might have. And then I also like this protection part. Everybody needs God's protection, and so it's wonderful for you to take time to pray protection over them in different ways. For example, this is my friend, so I know how to pray there, but if it were my mail carrier, I'd want to pray for protection as they travel from house to house, pray protection as they interact with animals and pets and things as they go through, and pray for them as they interact with people, that they would have, gentleness and kindness with and from others. There's lots of ways you can pray for someone, even if they're not your best friend. Then the scripture, did I say this was my favorite part, or this was my favorite part? Maybe this was my favorite part. this was great. So here's what I did. I focused on the person that I'm sending this card to. And I went out to Google, and you do this how you want to do it, but I went out to Google and I searched scripture based around what we experienced this week. And it was so cool because I ended up reading 20 or 30 scriptures. And when I did that, I would go, that's not the one that's this week. That's not the one that's this week. And I found this one, which really, really was. The one I chose is Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. And what's so cool is I actually read so many scriptures. There were so many that spoke to the situation or could have spoken to the situation or did in some way. And it got me into the Word looking at lots of different scriptures. So I really love that. And I love that. I don't know, there's something about picking a scripture for this prayer time that I spent with that person that I really, really like. Then God's guidance, I use this section to say what God taught me, what I learned through this prayer, what I gleaned from the experience. That's what I'm using this section for every time. Then we get over here to this side, and this is where this is like the crafty part, and you understand this part. So each time you flip the page, there's a different card challenge, okay? This first one was bold backgrounds, and I did just that, and you'll see that in the card that I make. And then I chose the theme, like how did I want this to feel? And it actually came from my experience, which I thought was really cool. It didn't feel, I don't know, it didn't feel soft. This felt like a big deal, and it felt bright and cheery and happy. That's how I felt, so I put that down. And then I wanted to do spring and light, so I wanted the time of year that it is, because we're really in a really good time of year right now, and then the light colors or the bright colors. And then I knew I wanted to lean into a friend loves or a friend. I could have just written friend here, but I knew I had a stamp set that said a friend loves at all times, so I put my sentiment there. Here I said I want to send a thank you with a personal note. That'll be in the card. And then I even put the stamp set I'm going to use. I could have put other things if I needed to list them. I drew out the sketch for my card, and I made a note of which one it was that I'm doing and even where I found it so I could reference it later. Then things to remember. I just went from what I had been praying about. What things did I want to remember from this week? And I made a list of those. Lastly, the personal reflection or affirmation. And you can use this in so many different ways. I basically summed up what God was talking to me about this person, what I felt, what I was experiencing through my prayer time, and I just summed it up here. But you also could write an affirmation for yourself, something that says, you know, something that was good, something you did that was good, something you experienced that was good, something to encourage you for the next time, you know. It doesn't just have to be reflection, but I tend to lean to the reflection. And then, of course, there is a different encouraging word for you on every single one of the weeks. So that's how the prayer map works. And like I said, every single page, every single time, there is a different challenge for you and a different encouragement for you. But the rest of it will stay very much the same. The prayer will be the same, but I want you to change that. I want you to just pray on your own with this, but everything else you'll fill in. What'll be so neat is at the end of 52 weeks in this book, you'll go back, and not only will you see what God taught you through your prayer time with Him, but you'll also see how many people you reached out to send an encouraging word. I just love it. I hope you're going to love it too. So now, why don't we make the card together that this is all about? So let's do that. So let's work on my card. I've got to show you something. If you were with us on Thursday night, you would have seen this. These are my card templates, that the way I'm going to store them. I don't have nearly enough in here. I just have 3 in here right now. But this is the card I want to make tonight. And I love this idea of making a template that I can actually take out and like put on my work surface and use it to test and lay things out and then put it right back in my book. But I think my favorite part of this whole thing is I can look at this without having to take it out of the book and get all my measures. And even when I was practicing my card, I can lay my pieces out and make sure they're going to fit and stuff like, isn't that cool? Love it. Okay, so check out Thursday night's live show. I show you this and other ways to use it, but that's the card I'm making. And by the way, it is called a Gatefold pop-out card is what we're going to make. So let's do our scoring. This is an A2 card base. So 8.5 by 5.5. Okay, so let me show you where my score marks are here. This card base is not your regular size. This guy's going to be 8 inches by 5.5. So all you're really doing is taking 1/2 inch off this side. Then we're going to score it at 2, at 4, and at 6. So here's your score marks. We need to do some trimming before we do the next part. We're going to cut from score mark that is 2 inches and the score mark that is 6 inches. We're going to cut across the middle of this guy, and we're going to do it in 2 places, okay? So we're going to put this into our trimmer with our score marks going across, and we're going to put it to 1 1/4 inch. Then we're going to take our cut blade, and I can sink it in as long as I'm inside that 6 inch mark. I'm going to run it down to 6, just like that. Just line it up at 6. Then I'm going to run it up to 2. And you just want to watch and make sure you don't go too far, okay? I'll lift this up and look. That looks really good. I'm cut between my score marks. Now I'm going to turn it around, put it to 1 1/4 inch, and do the same cuts. So I'll put this at 2, and then I'll pull down to 6. If you don't get it exactly to your score marks, you can always snip it with your fussy cutting scissors if you need to. So that's what we've done. We made those slices, okay? Now we need to do something else. Let me show you this really quick. If you use your embossing tool from your trimmer, you know, this one has both a blade and an embossing tool, then all you'll do right here is put this guy to the 3 inch, let me go this way, to 3 inches in your trimmer, and you will score inside this section we just sliced. Not all the way up and not all the way down, just inside this section. So you'll score from that line. Can you see I'm lining that score mark up with that little cut line down to this cut line, okay? Super easy if you do it in here. If you do it on your scoreboard, I want to show you a trick, because you may not have that trimmer. And I actually use my scoreboard for this, but I want to show you how I got around the floating part, because we need to score 3 inches in the middle section here. So we're kind of floating up here. So here's what I did. I took my ruler and I lined it up right beside that score mark and making sure I can get in there. So see, I'm right beside that 3 inch mark so that my bone folder can get in there. But I'm not going to start at the top. I'm going to start here. And what I did was just give myself the mark for 3 inches, and then I'm going to let that fall into the spot, and that just fell in like that. But that kept me at 3 inches, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing at 5. So I'm going to come right here, and at my cut mark, I'm going to try to let I'm going to make a little mark, and then I'm going to let my bone folder fall into the groove. There it went. You're not looking for perfection. We just want pretty close, right? Okay. Then what I suggest, before you cut the piece that's going to mount inside of here, measure that. Because let me show you. You think you've got 2 inches, but because of how we're scoring, you may not quite. Well, that's got 2 inches just, so we should be good. All right, let's move this out of the way and let's do the folding. The folding is a little bit different. What you want first is you want to push these little guys up, okay? So I'm just going to push that up, and I'm just going to barely get it started. I'm not going to do anything but that, all right? Then I'm going to do the same down here. Just push it up and get it started. Then you want this middle piece to go up as well. But we don't want to fold this middle score. We want to fold our 3 and our 5 inch score. So we're going to bend this just to reveal. I shouldn't even bend that far. We just want to reveal that 3 and that 5 inch, okay? So now that you've got your lines kind of started, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this side and fold it up. This is going to come forward, okay? And then this side is going to come forward. Now, let me show you how to crease this, okay? We're going to lay this thing down like it's going to go into the envelope. And this is what's going to happen. That's going to go like that. And then these guys are going to go to either side. And when you do this, now you can get your creases without really messing everything up once you get it folded. It's kind of difficult at first, but once you get it done, this is how your card will go and it will stand, okay? Once we get all our other pieces on, it'll get so much easier, but that's how this starts. Now, I did in this month, or in this first challenge, my challenge is bold backgrounds, okay? So I went in and found some bold background cardstock. And look, I'm going to put these guys on. I'm just going to let you see how it goes. I pre-cut them. Ooh, that would be cute too. And that is also bold, but we're going to do it this way. I pre-cut them so that we could just lay everything out, because I don't want this to confuse you. I will put the measurements for you guys in the description, or Tamitha will. Tamitha will put the measurements in the description for you guys, so you'll know exactly what size everything is. So there's those two pieces. Isn't that pretty? It's nice and bold and bright, okay? Now, these little pieces here, I thought these were pretty bold too, and they were bold against the floral. I'm going to glue these to these little sections that are popping up. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to turn this way and put this guy here. I'm really enjoying these fancy folds lately. You know, I've never been much of a fancy fold person. But now that I'm liking them so much, I've made that little notebook, and I really want to fill that guy up with fancy fold templates. So you might see that as a video soon. I might just show you how to make the templates and film them so you can make them as well. We can put all the measures in and everything for you. I think that'd be a helpful video, actually. All right, so I'm going to keep gluing these on down here at the bottom, and then we'll do the next section. Okay, so there's our little striped pieces. Now what I want to do is on these sides, I'm going to put some more bold color. I think this will be pretty right there. All right, we're going to build the middle, and it's going to involve this little pink piece here. It's going to go something like that. Let me show you my plan. So using my stamp set called Always Love, I think this is perfect. I'm going to use the word loves, and you can see I've got it loaded on my stamp wheel here. And I'm going to use a friend at all times. This makes perfect sense for me for this card this time. And so what we're going to do is ink this up. I'm going to ink it with some Memento ink. It will work well with alcohol markers if I decide to color this. And I think I will color it because, again, I want it to kind of match that bold background. So we'll just stamp this really quick. And sometimes, and you'll see this here, sometimes with a dye ink, because it's it doesn't have a pigment, a heavy pigment in it, it'll get kind of splotchy. See that? No big deal. We're just going to stamp it multiple times. That's why we love these stamp positioners. Also, with these letters, you can see I got mine pretty close together. In a couple of places, I cut away some of the excess stamp. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Sometimes our stamps, all the time, they have what's called a bleed or a base around the edge. And sometimes that base is really big. These really weren't, but this V right here, I had to cut it just a little bit to get it a little bit closer. And I like how that looks. All right, so we're going to take this guy and we're going to fussy cut it. But for the sake of, let's see, the magic of television, I already did that. This was my practice one that I did, so I went ahead and cut it. And I thought we could use it for the card. All right, let me show you my plan for laying it out and how this is kind of cool. So my plan is I'm going to stamp a little bit more on this pink piece, and this is going to go across the middle is my plan. And what's neat about it is when you close this card down, like so, that piece, even though it hangs over that little middle section, is going to be plenty in the middle of our card. And it does hang over a tiny bit. That's actually not a big deal because this card is smaller than an A2 envelope. Because remember, it was 5.5 by 8, so we have a little bit of room to hang over, and I think this will be pretty. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this guy aside for now. I'm going to get some more stamps, and I'm going to go to pigment ink for this because it will stamp better, cleaner. So I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx Black, and I'm going to put all times at the bottom. And then at the top, I'm going to put a friend. And then after I color this, I will put it across the middle. So I took a little bit of artistic license there. All these colors don't match perfectly, but that's okay. It'll still be cute. All right, the other thing I'm going to do is grab a white gel pen because I want to kind of give these a little bit of a highlight. I think that'll be cute just to add a little bit here and there. So now I'm going to put this across here. I think that'll be really cute. I may put it on after I get it onto the card. Let's glue this guy down first. So this will go in the middle. And then with it kind of flat like this, we'll place this guy so I can see exactly where he needs to go. Oh, it matches pretty good. I know there's purple on there, but it matches pretty good. So I think that V centered is going to be really, really what we want. Isn't that cute? I love that. And it gives me lots of room back here to write. And I think the recipient will like being able to stand that up and look at it. That is so cute. I love how this turned out. A friend loves at all times. And you could, of course, add anything else you wanted to, but I'm going to let this be it. I also like when you close it that they go either way. And you can do that either side. You can take it to this side and then bring this one over. Or you can put them both on the same side. Either way you want to do that. So I don't know which way I'm going to do it. But once it's in the envelope, it'll stay flat until they get it. All right. that is my card for the first week. I love how that turned out. It was very, very fun to do. And I love making a card for a person that specific, specific for that person and that you've been praying for. And I just think that's really, really cool. So this card, I may snap a picture of it and put it in my book before I send it. I don't know for sure. I'll probably just snap a picture for sure. But you can always add it. Let me show you. You can always snap a picture and add it to your layout section. I think that would be cute to do that. And I talked about before, when you add it, maybe put it in with a piece of washi tape or just a piece of tape so it can lift up so you can still see your information underneath. But either way works. And that's it. We used our bold backgrounds and made a card for a friend. Love it very, very much. All right. I hope you have enjoyed this, our first week of our prayer map. I'm very excited to keep doing this. It's a very special time. I thought it was very sweet and such a good way to focus on a person that you can pray for and really hear from God about and also talk to God about them. So it's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is you'll see me again doing this next week. That's my plan, just to do this going forward. If you have any questions, if you'd like to pick up the book, if you haven't, you can get that on our website at maymaymadeit.com. Also, when you make your cards, I want to see them. It doesn't change. I still want to see them. And we're going to have you do them on our customer gallery, also on our Facebook group called Maymay Made It and So Did I, but also on our Created in Christ group. I would love to see them over there too. I think it'd be a really neat way to brighten up that page. It's become very much a prayer focused group, and I think it'd be really cool to have your projects posted over there. So feel free to post a photo. Now, I do want to tell you, in case you've never posted in any of our groups before, we don't allow links, we don't allow watermarks, and we don't allow GIFs or GIFs, whichever way you say that. The problem with those or videos of any kind is sometimes not meaning to, they can link back to something they shouldn't. And so we just avoid those altogether because we've had some bad issues with those. So I just want to let you know that before you post. So just make sure it's just a photo of the card and share, and you can, post about it and the card that you made it for, who you made it for. And we would love to see it. All right, you guys, thanks so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And until next time. Bye now.